It was so smooth. It was smoother than our ice cream here.
What you made with the church.
Sure, yeah. But that was my comment to the reporter over there.
Well, then how did you get home from,
I flew home.
you had a visitor? You had a visitor at the airport.
I lost. Where?
Okie?
Oh, no, okay. When I was in England, well, first of all, the people in my outfit, I was in the headquarters battery in a brigade, an anti-aircraft artillery brigade. And they were giving tests at one of the airports, at Lake and Heath Airport, where we had bombers stationed, for entrance into West Point. The people in the outfit, the 2 or 3, the officers wanted me to go try that test. And I didn't think I had much of a chance, and really I didn't, because Gilbert High School at that time, you didn't get too many classical subjects. But I went to Lake and Heath and took a test to go to West Point, and I didn't make it. I made 37 out of 100. But you got to remember that is a math college, more or less. It's an engineering school, and there was calculus on that test, just one thing right after the other. And I didn't know what calculus was. I went in the Army when I was 17 years old. I just graduated from high school in May and was in the Army in July. And that picture over there was made while I was in basic training, I believe. And but I didn't have a chance of passing the test to get into West Point. But then I did apply for OCS, Officers Candidate School, and I was accepted. And on my way from where I was stationed in Mildenhall, England, I know you've heard of that because that's in the news quite a bit. I got sent to, what was it? Burtonwood, I believe was the name of the place. And that's where Okie was stationed. Now, Okie was he was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and at that place, they flew me to there, and in a DC-3, a C-47, in the Air Force, and we were on approach for a landing. Wheels were down. The pilot got a radio message to go around, and they sent him. We went to another Air Force base. There was an airman there that his father had just died, and they were sending him home. And he took my seat on a MATS flight, Military Air Transport Service. The plane that I was to be on went down somewhere between England and the Azores, with everybody on it with 20 tons of mail. I was spared from that, and I had to wait 30 days for rotation to get back on the flight to come to the States. Base in Massachusetts. I called a train, and I had a long leave before I was to report to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for OCS. And I just had a couple of days because of my getting bumped on the flight at Burtonwood Air. But all that 30 days I was with Okie. I went to the officers' clubs and I got to meet the commanding general of Burtonwood Air Force Base and all this stuff. But I didn't make it through OCS. 4 o'clock in the evening, we went to PT, which is physical torture. And after that was over, we had to run back to the barracks. They gave us 5 minutes to get into Class A uniform and stand retreat. And after all of that, I passed out. I just dropped. They put me in the hospital for 2 days, and like every other doctor before, they could find nothing wrong with me. And they sent me back, but not to my regular outfit. It was a new class. I was more than halfway through OCS, and I knew what the first half was. There was a part of it in there which was called Hell Week. And I don't mind telling you, I would guess it was like being in hell. It wasn't hot, because this was in November, December, January. But your stomach, my stomach got about that big from harassment. And I said, I'm not going through that. I resigned. And there were several OCS classes that went on in artillery there at Fort Sill. And there were 66 people out of all of the classes there that had resigned, that was waiting orders. 65 of those people got sent to Korea. I was the only one that got a stateside assignment. Don't know to this day why, but I didn't have to go to Korea. And Korea had been going on for a couple years then. And we were told that if you resign from OCS, your assignment is Korea. Why I didn't have to go, like I say, I still don't know. But saved again.
He talks about the Army. One thing I want to remember is this ring right here. It's too little for you to see. I can fit it on my little finger. That's a class ring that he was in on leave, and the class rings came in. He paid $12.97 to get this for me. With the $5 that I'd already paid down. And that bought her a class ring. The top of it's worn off, but I'll always keep that ring. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, after the service ended, Ray went to work with, let me find the picture. Went to work with the group surveys. Daddy was the crew. And Harry Trent and Earl Trent and Reuben Klein was in there. And while he was in there, he married, and he had Eddie, who lives in Bellingham, Washington. He had Sandra, who lives in Cleveland, Ohio, and he had Mike.
Standing in the corner back there.
Yeah, right here. Now, on one of his jobs with this group. He traveled all over the United States, putting in roads and water systems here and there. And one job in Monticello, Kentucky, he saw a little girl doing her homework in the restroom. But now there's a person here who wants to tell us about that. Come up here, Rita.
I want to inject something here. She went ahead a little bit. When I got out of the Army, I went to work at North American Aviation in Columbus, Ohio, building the Sabre jet, the F-86 Sabre jet. I was proud of that because the airplanes have always been in my blood. And my part in building that aircraft, see, that was a Navy plane when it was first built. They built it to land on aircraft carriers. Well, the first ones they built everything out of aluminum. And when the tail hook would go down and hook on the cable on the deck, first ones they landed, they pulled them apart. Too much speed and too light an aircraft. So they started making them out of titanium. And that was my job on the aircraft factory floor, was building the network of things. It was rings and long titanium, I don't know what you call them. But anyway, they were made of titanium. What they were hooked to were made of titanium on both ends, and that's what the tail hook then was hooked to on the aircraft. And that solved the problem of getting the tail section of the aircraft pulled off. And but the noise in that place, the noise was terrible. And I decided that I should get out of that, and I went to work on the survey crew for Burgess and Nyquil Engineering in Columbus, and I worked on the Hoover Dam. Now, that's not the Hoover Dam out in Nevada. I think they had to get special permission from those people out there to name that the Hoover Dam. But that was my first job on the survey crew, was working the Hoover Dam in Columbus. Now, go ahead. Bill.
Ray and his survey crew, by this time he was working for Rackoff Associates out of Columbus. Ray and his crew came to Monticello, Kentucky to start a new road that would bypass the downtown. I was working in a dining room of the Executive Motor Inn. It was a hotel. I don't know when this hotel was built, but it was pretty old, wasn't it? But anyway, I was working in the dining room. I'd recently been divorced, single mother, raising a little girl. That little girl was Karen. I couldn't afford a babysitter, so I had her with me. And in the evenings, she would do her homework sitting in the lobby of the hotel. And Ray was staying there. Ray and his crew was staying there. And they were having their meals in the dining room. And one evening, he paid for his meal, and he noticed this little girl sitting over by the window, doing her homework. And he went over and sit down beside her, and he asked her what she was doing, and she said, "I'm doing my homework." And said, well, can I help you? And she said, well, do you know what animal crows in the barnyard? She told me later, said, I was giving him a test, said, I wanted to find out how smart he was. She said, I knew what crowed in the barnyard. But anyway, I think about every evening that week, he spent time talking to her. And
See the method to my madness?
yes, she told him that her birthday was coming soon, on October the 13th, and he said, well, he said, my birthday is on the 10th of October. So that, you know, that was part of their talk. And when Ray went to leave that Friday, he came to me and asked me for our address. And on her birthday, she got a birthday card from him. And it had an old, a little old inflatable hillbilly. And she thought that was the greatest thing ever was. Almost a year goes by, and Ray returned to Mossville. Then I was working across the street at the Ben Franklin 5 and Dime. And one evening I looked up and I saw him sitting in the, like right up in the window. And he was just watching me. And he come over and bought a protractor, I think, and he bought a box of chocolates. And he asked me if I would take them and give them to Karen. And he asked me for a date. So we began our courtship. We got married about a year later in 1970. We moved here to Justice. We got married at Monticello with just his parents, my mom, and our 4 kids. You want me to tell more about our life together?
Better not.
Well, most of you know, the rest is history.
That's a young beauty. Well, life is always funny. But you know, there were some low places. Like cancer. That's what took her mother. On April the 28th, 1976. That was just 2 days ago. Seems like yesterday. But Hazel was an awesome lady. Everybody in town knew her. Daddy played a harmonica. He could be heard playing his harmonica after dark in the house. That happened all the time that Mother was dead. But then in December 1977, a heart attack took Daddy. Then in February of 1998, Miss Coomer left the family. And this floral arrangement down here in the floor is supposed to be set for you, set for on the altar.
Oh, thank you. It's pretty.
I want to inject something here. that harmonic. Mike still has it and plays it, don't you, Mike?
Sure do.
Oh,
This is his tie.
That's his tie.
Yeah, sure is.
Well, anyhow, after all that happened, I heard about you coming to this church. And you met Dixie Hatfield. What did she do?
Dixie was, the first time we came here, I think that was probably 70, 71. Dixie was standing on the steps out front with Pastor Carl Kelly. And she looked and saw us coming through the gate. She said, I want to shake your hand if you're responsible for bringing him here. And she welcomed us, introduced us. We attended church here for a couple of years. And then we moved to Strasburg, Ohio. That allowed us to be closer to raise 3 kids. We got to have them every other weekend then.
One thing that did surprise us about Rita, she got pregnant.
Well,
Aaron Ray was born to her, and he loved his Aunt Lear. But tell us what he said his name was after Danny Camden.
yeah, Danny Camden was pastor here. And Danny would speak to Aaron and want to shake his hand, and he would ask him, how you been? How you been? Well, someone asked Aaron what his name was, and he said, Ben.
Well, the job that Ray had here took a low turn. He was without a job. So after a long while, they decided they would move to Roanoke, right here. Here's Aaron. Here they are moving to Roanoke. Now, city life was good for them, but their eye problems, prostrate surgery, fibromyalgia, all different kinds of things got in their family. Aaron had a good job working on cars, but they decided they would move back to Cub Creek. And Aaron stayed with his job, so they moved back to Cub Creek. And the United Methodist Church gave the call for Ray to become a assigned supply person when Reverend Ricky lived. It was a big job. Several things were involved, and going to classes and conferences. Tell us about the good things, the bad things, or any ugly things you want us to know. What should we do different? Here's the
I don't know whether I want to do anything different or not.
You shouldn't have to.
Probably I should have committed my life to Christ earlier. That happened in 1970. '75 when we left here and went to Roanoke, or I mean, to Strasburg, Beach City. I guess we started going to the Methodist church up there. That was the only pastor in that town that welcomed us into the community. So that's why I started going to the Methodist church up there. Now, we moved in '72, I believe it was, or '73,
September 72.
and I didn't give my life to Christ until January 1975.
Well, we're glad you did.
I'm glad I did.
It's been a fun time for us to be here. And, there's one other person who wants to talk to you. Marie?
She probably can't hear you.
Hey, Marie. Come on.
You ready for me? All right. Well, we really appreciate Ray and Rita. You know, we always talk, all of us ladies say that behind every good man there's a good woman. So, Rita, on behalf of the church, we would like to present this to you. And you've got 3 yellow roses. One from Mama, Papa, and your mother.
Well, thank you so much.
That's to hang on your door.
Oh, it's beautiful. I'll hang it proudly.
And, you
Yeah,
know,
it looks like the winner of the Kentucky Derby to me.
well, you can put it around her neck if you want to.
The old gray mare ain't what she used to be.
You know, we could never, as a church, thank you all for what you've done. You've stepped up, I think it was in 2013 that you took this position, not knowing, going blind, I guess, in a position. But we, as a church, really, really do, from the depths of our heart, appreciate everything you do, every Sunday morning, every phone call, every card. We just could not say thank you enough. So on behalf of the church,
Well, people, that's part of the job, and I know that I don't do all that I should. But there's sometimes there's extenuating circumstances that just don't allow it. And there's all kinds of meetings that I should be going to in the conference, and I don't. I can't. I don't like to leave Rita too long at a time, and it's. I've told the DS that I can't attend everything that they schedule. Now,